Good morning, members of the Comms Club. So today, as the 1st of March, is the first day of a sequence of videos called March Matters. See what I did there? Because if you watched my little video yesterday, you will know that I chose to start my business year in March this year and not January, because I'm never ready to get going. I'm never full of energy and motivated and totally prepared for the beginning of a new year on the 1st of January. So I decided this year to take the pressure away and start my new year, my new goals, my new intentions from March. And it's been an absolute joy taking January and February as the last 2 months of last year's business year and preparing to launch in a solid way new initiatives with a renewed energy from the 1st of March. And therefore, every weekday in March, I will be coming into the group to go live with a little bit of a comms video, a top tip, a skill, a point for you to reflect on, something that I believe if you were to hear it, decide if it's relevant for you, take it on board, adopt it if it feels good to you, has the potential with the compound effect of when we get to the end of March to have changed the way that you communicate. So, let us begin. So today's video is all about the ripples of communication, because I think it is really important to understand that the way in which you communicate, your words, your tone and your non-verbal communication, it ripples and has an impact on everybody that you communicate with. So the way in which you communicate, it shapes the way your children communicate. It shapes the way your colleagues communicate. It shapes the way that your family and friends communicate. In fact, it shapes the communication style of anybody that you come into contact with on a regular basis. And sometimes we would like to disbelieve that. We would like to think that we can communicate and it has no bearing on anyone else's experience or life from that point on, but that's just not true. Humans are great imitators. We strive to become like the people that we spend the most time with. You've probably heard the phrase, you become an average of the 5 people that you spend most time with. You will communicate in a way that is similar to the way the 5 people that you spend most time with communicate. So therefore there is a responsibility that I want you to consider when it comes to the way in which you choose to communicate, because communication is a choice. And when you know that you have a responsibility, that you are shaping the way others go on to communicate because of the way they've seen you do it and the way that they have been on the receiving end of your communication, sometimes it sharpens your awareness and it can help you to make better choices with the way in which you communicate. So a few things to think about in that vein. If we impact others in the way in which we communicate, it's really important to understand that what you say externally to someone else over time becomes their self-talk. So I say it again because this, if we could just get hold of this little moment, this little nugget, and accept responsibility for it, we have the potential to create so much good and to change so much. What you externally communicate over time becomes the self-talk of the person on the receiving end of it. If you describe one of your kids as the clumsy one, the shy one, the socially awkward one, over time, your child will replay the external communication that you've given, and it will become the self-talk that they use to challenge, berate, and to criticize themselves. Their self-talk will become your narrative. They will hear themselves say, well, of course I'm not good in these situations, I'm shy. Or, you know, I'm always socially awkward. Everyone says I'm socially awkward, so therefore it's true. So no wonder this feels horrible because I'm socially awkward. Your external description of someone else, and your communication and the choice of words you use for them becomes their self-talk. And don't forget, think about how much you've been shaped by the people you work with. Have you had a boss who has described you as X, Y, or Z, and then you go to complete your appraisal form, and you go to be interviewed for a new job, and they ask you about your strengths and weaknesses? Often you repeat what you have been told your strengths and your weaknesses are, because that's repeated, that becomes your self-talk. It becomes your own narrative. Now, what happens if you choose to give no thought to your communication to the people that you have access to all the time? What if you choose to communicate in a critical way because you're short-tempered and you don't like the person? What's the potential for their self-talk to be harmful, negative, and to be dismissive and critical in the future? The potential for that is huge. And likewise, what would happen to their self-talk, their self-belief, their self-esteem, their self-confidence if over time you have communicated in a way that reminds them of their strengths, shares and recognises their best bits, and is kind and compassionate at every stage? The potential for positive self-talk in their mind in the future is massive. And remember that on average, every one of us uses 50,000 words of self-talk a day. 50,000 words of positive, negative, or a mix of the two. So never underestimate the impact of your communication on others. Now, the second thing, when we're talking about the way in which communication ripples out and has an impact and affects other people, there is a little home truth that I often share that people don't enjoy me sharing, but I think it's important to hear this because it is closely linked to the choice that we make when we set the intention to communicate with people. And the home truth is that we treat people in a way that we believe we can get away with. We treat people in a way that we believe we can get away with. Just for a moment, suspend your rejection or potential rejection of that idea and think about it. Who in your social group do you turn up late to meet? Do you think it's a problem? No, of course you don't, because you continually turn up late, because you believe nothing bad will happen to the relationship, to your friendship if you rock up late. So you turn up late because you believe you can get away with it. If your boss's boss wanted to have a meeting with you, or you had an important meeting with someone from the medical profession, would you turn up late? The answer is probably no. And the only difference between those two scenarios is you do not believe you could get away with turning up late to that medical professional, that senior leader, that important meeting that you've booked in. You prioritise it more so than you did meeting that person in your friendship group who you regularly turn up late for. Excuse me, little hangover, residual cold from my skiing holiday. So if we treat people in a way that we believe we can get away with, think about the treatment in our communication. Who are you regularly short-tempered with? Who are you regularly dismissive of? Who do you believe you can banter with and make jokes about without there being any repercussion? Who are you critical of? And who are you very polite to? Who are you very careful and respectful in the way that you communicate? Your behaviour changes in those scenarios because you believe your behaviour will or won't threaten the relationship that you have got, and where you can get away with something, you will. Now, sometimes we communicate in the short-tempered, irritable, critical way with the people that we love the most, because we know our relationship is strong and they are our safe place, and we can get away with being a little bit rude on occasion. We wouldn't do that with our new in-laws or our new boss or our new work colleagues, because we don't think we could get away with that. And I labour the point because sometimes I believe we behave in a way that we would like to justify in our own minds as just being one of those things. Well, of course I didn't mean anything by it. Actually, I would argue subconsciously you meant a lot by it. Every choice you make of the words, the phrasing, the tone of your voice, the body language, the non-verbal clues that you give to somebody when you're communicating, you have chosen those. And if you believe and would challenge me to the point where you think, no, I don't choose that, then I would argue it's just become a habit. And March, spring 2023, is your opportunity to challenge the bad habits you've got and make changes where you feel they are important. And if you just sit over the next few days with the thought of, actually, do I treat so-and-so like that because I think I can get away with it or not? Is that a habit or not? You will come to recognise some uncomfortable moments potentially, but you will also recognise some opportunities. Because combined with our behaviour being a choice and it dictating our priority and the importance of the relationship to us, as well as knowing that our communication becomes the self-talk of the people on the receiving end of it, it's a powerful combination. And it puts power back to us to create communication that counts, to give the right energy to the words we use and the conversations that we have, so that we are able to have the most positive and self-aware impact on others. If everybody just shifted a little bit closer towards that goal, I believe the conversations that we have every day would be more enjoyable, they would be more meaningful, they will be more impactful, and they would be more satisfying to be part of. So as I end this video about the ripples of conversation, like it or not, there's two things that I would encourage you to do. The first thing I would encourage you to do is listen to yourself. For the first time, perhaps, maybe you're really self-aware and you do this all the time, and in that case, I salute you. If this is new to you, start to listen to what you say. Catch yourself in the moment, speaking to your parent, your child, your partner, your line manager, your team member, your colleague, your best friend, a new friend, your kid's teacher, the salesman on the end of the phone. How rude are you to when someone rings you up with a PPI offer, or they want to service your solar panels, or they tell you you've had a car accident? We behave in a way in those moments that we think we can get away with because the relationship to that person doesn't matter. But what about the experience that person's had up to that point? Your communication, your words have power, and you can choose how to make them feel in the moment. So tip number one, listen to yourself. And I heard a phrase by a friend of mine, Lee Howes, the other day, and we were talking about communication, and she said that she uses a phrase, catch it, challenge it, change it, when it comes to this. And it's quite powerful, actually, the more I've thought about it. And she was saying, when you hear yourself say something, catch that thought or that expression, and then challenge whether you're comfortable with it, whether it's true and whether it's right. And if not, then change it. So listen out to what you hear yourself speak to other people. Look for patterns. Who actually you're just downright rude to and you think you can get away with it because they're related to you, or they're your child and they don't know any better, or you just don't care. Is that right? Does it make you feel good? Probably not. Does it make them feel good? Definitely not. And when you catch a piece of communication that makes you, in your gut, feel slightly uncomfortable, and it will make you feel uncomfortable now because I've said, actually, you think you can do it on purpose, it's a choice, catch it, challenge it, and change it if you want to. And then the second top tip I'm going to leave you with this morning is when you are about to say something. Maybe somebody's pressed your buttons and you're about to respond. Or actually you are initiating a conversation, you want to tell them something. Or it's a knee-jerk reaction, a response to a question or a comment that they've made. Just in that moment, take a heartbeat before you speak and just ask yourself, is what you are about to say helpful? Is it true? And is it kind? Because for you to be intentional with your communication, I believe that your words should be either helpful, they should be true, and they should be kind. And if what you're about to say doesn't fit one of those criteria, then I would challenge you to see whether you ought to say it at all. If you just catch it and say, is it helpful, is it true, is it kind, 9 times out of 10, it starts to field out the sarky comments, the critical comments, the short-tempered comments, the rude comments, because those comments, those pieces of communication, they're not helpful. Sometimes they're not even true, and I can guarantee they're not kind. So those are my 2 top tips I leave you with. Be under no illusion that the way in which you choose to communicate, every piece of verbal and non-verbal communication that you give to someone else matters. I would love to set the tone that in March we become far more intentional with the way in which we communicate. I'd love to know your thoughts on this video. Feel free to comment below, and I will see you back here tomorrow for day 2 of March's live videos. Okay, bye for now.